If you want to be able to take your macros to a different level, in other words, by default, anytime you record a macro, the last cell that you end up in is the cell that it's always going to end up in when you run the macro. So if I start up here and I record all these clicks and I finally end up here, well, when I run the macro and I'm, let's say, down here when I run it, it's going to end back up here. Well, I don't want it to end back up here because if I have more data down here, I want it to affect the data down below. So how do I get it from being absolute or constant to always go back to the cell, the last cell when I recorded it, to being relative? And relative means, for example, if I'm up here messing around, I record it, I make that bold and this italics, and I end up here. If I have another miniature database down here, and I start here and I run it, being relative, it's going to say, okay, we started up here, we kind of moved down here. It's going to down here when I run it, start up here, move down here. Absolute says, no. We have to go back to where you ended up, which is right here. So we'll finish part of it, but always end up where I finished off at. So that's relative, flexible, absolute, not budging on that last cell. See if this makes sense. Let me go ahead and record a macro by first starting up in this cell, okay, and click record. And we'll call this the default, which is absolute, and we'll say Control D and then click OK, and then we'll say, starting off here, let's go to the Home tab, make that bold, then come down here and let's make that italics, and then we'll stop it. We want to keep it simple. So that's absolute, okay? Then let's go ahead and test this out by saying I want to run this macro in this cell now, make it bold, and then kitty corner, make that italics. But because it's absolute, when I run the macro, it's going to end up in this last cell, the very last cell that I was in. For example, developer, let's go to macros, let's select the default absolute, run. See, it made that bold. It understands it can start anywhere, but it always has to end up in the same spot. So if I make it relative, let me go ahead and go to the Home tab and let's undo this, unapply the formatting here, start over again in the same cell, come back to the Developer tab and select Use Relative Reference, and then go ahead and record it. Let's say, and then click Okie dokie. And then we go ahead to the Home tab, make it bold, and come down here, make it italics. And then let's go down here. Well, remember it's on the status bar, click Stop. And let's do it over here. This is where we start. It'll make it bold. It'll be relative to what it saw here in the pattern and not go back to the last cell that we recorded, but bump it down relative to, well, there's an angle there. It's going to come down to the angle here. So to run the macro, let's go Developer, Macros, Relatives, Run, and there we go. So if you find yourself getting stuck on the last cell, always coming back to that cell when you want to apply the same steps to another part of the worksheet, then use relative. I just want to make sure that when I'm done I select it to turn it off because I'm not used to using relative. Thanks for watching. Hey, as a quick reminder, if you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. You can also click on me and subscribe to my channel to get notified of the latest videos, and for only $2 a month you get online access to all my training. Or for downloads and DVDs, please visit me at dreamforce.us.